said some human beings could be enslaved, for example. Throughout most of human history, social contracts have excluded certain groups of people. Were the social contracts in those societies immoral?
So immoral is kind of, in a way, begging the question of which moral system we're using. Obviously, insofar as theirs were concerned, it wasn't. For me personally, I don't believe in any sort of like moral realism. I don't believe in any kind of like moral fact. So I don't think I could evaluate from some objective frame of reference, this thing is absolutely morally correct or this thing is absolutely morally incorrect. As far as I'm aware, I don't believe that we have any organs to allow us to perceive any sort of moral fact in the world. So I think that moral systems are invented by people. I think that we all have kind of shared intuitions. And so when we're writing like any kind of moral system, I think what we're doing is we're kind of leaning into the intuitions that people have, and we're trying to write rules explaining kind of why people feel the things they do. As an analogy to that, did you ever take any musical training?
Yes, I was in the 7th grade, and I was an idiot, and instead of picking the guitar, I picked the trumpet.
Okay.
It turns out girls like the guitar more than the trumpet. But.
True. So for music, there's something called music theory, which is a theory of explaining how music sounds away to a certain person.
Right.
A music theorist can't write and say, this is going to sound good to you. All a music theory person can do is say, well, these things tend to sound good. Let's figure out the rules for why they do and why they don't. And I believe that morality is constructed in the same way. So I'd be like, probably like a non-cognitivist school of thought under like a moral anti-realism, I guess. So to go back, when you ask me, is something like objectively right or wrong? I don't believe that there is an objective right or wrong. Just like I don't think there's like an objective beautiful or an objective best song or an objective anything like that. Yeah.
So like I would say it's evil to rape someone. It is wrong to do that, and it is a fact that no one should ever do that, full stop. Would you just say rape makes you feel bad, you don't like it, you'd prefer people don't do that?
Yeah, that's essentially the non-cognitivist position, right? Because I don't think you can, I don't believe there's a fact to be observed. My challenge would be is, how do I observe a moral fact?
Well, I just think that we have a sense of observing morality, just like we have a sense of observing the natural world, and it's not the Matrix. We have an intuitive ability to do that, and I have no reason to deny that ability to exist. That ability exists. I just as I know the world around us is real, even if I can't prove that, I know that it's an objective fact that it's wrong to rape children, for example.
So let's say that you had two people and they came together and we were observing the natural world, and two people had a disagreement over, if I dropped this cup, will the cup go to the ground or not, right? Do we believe in gravity, essentially? I think that if there was a disagreement between those two people, I think that we can run tests that appeal to our faculty where we can... God damn it, Brian!
There's a motorcycle outside.
Sorry, guys.
The
There's
studio.
is it a leaf blower? Or
No,
I don't know
who knows?
what
There's sense data that basically we can acquire from the real world, and then it can, assuming none of us are psychotic or delusional, we can come to an agreement over whether the cup will fall or not. If two of us were to analyze a situation, we can say like the rape of kids, because that's a pretty obviously wrong one for most people. But if we go into hairier situations, like say Kyle Rittenhouse defending himself, there's a disagreement there over whether or not you might have a right to kill somebody based on them attacking you. How do you observe the disagreement? Like,
right.
How do you reconcile who's right or wrong if there's a moral fact there?
Well, just like in general, let's say there are facts of history. Just because we might disagree about which historical facts are true or not, we might not have access to all the information or make inferences. We can still say that, it was a fact that the Civil War happened, for example, even if we disagree about what exactly caused it or something like that. So when it comes to morality, even if we disagree about the fact that there is disagreement about moral issues, I think that shows there's objective morality. Now, as a religious person, I do think there is ultimately a universal moral lawgiver, what people might call God, that ultimately explains that. But even if you didn't believe in God, and there are many moral realists who don't, you could believe that, well, the fact that we talk about abortion, we're not talking about abortion like we talk about sports teams or talk about fashion. Does this look good? Does that look good? That's very subjective. But it seems like when we talk about abortion, we can make moral progress. We can get closer to having a better position. Like, I think America has made moral progress in getting rid of slavery, giving women the right to vote, things like that. But if there were no objective morals, you couldn't call it progress. It would just be change, just like how fashion changes.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, moral progress is begging the question that there is an objective morality, right? In order to make progress, there must be something you're progressing to.
Let's get out of the basement and go back to abortion.
Sure. Well, I do want to say one thing, because you
Sure.
said you can have a disagreement over historical truth. Again, that truth are empirical things. Like, I could uncover archaeologically, like, some item that disproves or proves another theory. That's fundamentally different, I think, than a disagreement over a moral fact. For instance, two people, a woman says something slightly rude to her husband. The husband strikes the woman to discipline her.
Right.
Two people come together and they say, I disagree on whether or not that's right or wrong. Where is the moral fact? How do you actually determine concretely who is right or wrong? Because for historical fact, the answer is there, right? Somehow there's some piece of evidence you could find to prove, yes, this did happen or no, this didn't. But for a moral dispute, how do you reconcile that between two different people who disagree?
Well, I think what you would do is you would start with the most basic intuitions that we can see are correct. Like, just starting with, you ought to do good and avoid evil. It's wrong to rape and torture someone because it's fun for you. Courage is better than cowardice. And these are just basement level things that people can see are true. Just like we can see the natural world around us, we can see the external world. There might be some colorblind people who can't see it like we do, but that doesn't take away from the objective thing. Let's go back. I want to
I understand we can go back, but I think these parts are pretty important because it's going to inform a lot of this.
Okay, let's put a pin in it, because I want to talk about your view about abortion, though, because I think when it comes, here's what I think honestly happens in these. It doesn't have to just be abortion. Give me any moral dispute.
Sure.
We'll say is, all right, here's moral issue X. You have your view, I have my view. And we critique, and a lot of the ways we critique each other's views is, your view leads to these crazy consequences. Yeah, but your view leads to crazy consequences. So then we kind of say, okay, whose view leads to kind of less crazy consequences? And that may be the more reasonable view we ought to hold. I think that happens a lot in moral discourse.
Yeah. So
your view then would be this. And then I'll talk about the consequences, and I'll talk about just the overall, what I think is wrong with the view. That a person exists when you lose the immediate ability to be conscious. I guess when you permanently lose it. Like if you're in a persistent vegetative state permanently, you're no longer a person. When you lose consciousness, you're not a person anymore, when you lose it permanently. So you start to be a person when you gain it. Prior to 20 weeks, there is no person, there's no one there with a right to life in the fetus. Correct? Your view? So I have a few questions then. Would it be wrong to cause a healthy fetus to become permanently unconscious?
No.
Okay. So would it be wrong to cause this permanent unconsciousness to use, let's say you could keep growing the fetus into an older body, to use it for organ harvesting, maybe as a kind of sex doll even?
As long as it never became conscious or didn't have the faculty?
Never became conscious.
Correct.
Okay. Related question, but we'll circle back soon. What are your thoughts on fake child pornography using AI or virtual images?
Fake child pornography. I'm not going to have a strong opinion on the action itself. It's going to be consequential in nature in terms of like what are the impacts of doing it. So say you create a bunch and people stop actually abusing children, I'd probably be in favor of it. Say you create a bunch and it leads to an increased harm of children, I'd probably oppose to it.
You have a practical objection, not an in principle objection.
No, they wouldn't be like, no. Yeah.
Okay. So then it circles back. So let's say we had people who took fetuses, made them permanently unconscious, and made them infant, toddler, or child sex dolls. So we have, we have unconscious infants and toddlers. They were never conscious. They're used as child sex dolls. Your only objection to that practice would be if it caused more pedophilia among other conscious children.
Yeah, because I would say there's no person is being harmed there.
Okay. So child sex dolls could be on the table. Okay.
Kind of, although I would fight the framing of this because child is intuition pumping the idea that it's a fully formed, developed human, and I would never call a brainless thing a child.
Yes, so then I would say human
body lacking a brain, I would say you can do whatever you want with it.
A biological human organism that proceeds through the child stages.
Sure.
That is never conscious.
Sure.
There we go. All right. Would it be wrong to kill a newborn who has never been conscious?
Assuming it lacked the ability to be conscious, sure. It's not, or you can kill it. There's nothing to kill. You could end the existence of whatever that is, yes.
Well, suppose it didn't permanently lack the ability. If we gave it drugs or something like that, or maybe it'll naturally come out of it in a few months.
When you say come out of it, we start to get into an area where you're like kind of disintegrating my concept of consciousness. So I consider conscious experience to be an emergent property of the underlying structures of the brain communicating with each other. So if you're telling me, what if you had all the underlying structures, but you didn't have that conscious experience? It's a really hard one for me to conceptualize.
Let's just say the structures still have to develop, I guess.
Sure, then it's an undeveloped, then I would say it's free game for whatever.
Yeah. For example, I think this came up a little bit in your dialogue with Lila. You have an anencephalic child who doesn't have an upper brain, someone like Jackson Buell.
Yeah.
People can look that up online. Doctors said he'll probably die. Most anencephalic children, the upper brain does not develop. So the neural tube fails to close. So you just have a lower brain. And Jackson lived to be about 5. Now his parents claimed that he did exhibit signs of consciousness. Some other people might debate that. I don't know. But you would say that if a newborn didn't, never develop consciousness. I mean, I guess it's like a fetus and never developed it. The structures haven't developed yet in the brain. Okay. Here's one that'd be interesting. Suppose we had a drug that could, so take the anencephaly case. Normally, if you don't grow if your upper brain, consciousness doesn't develop, it's never going to develop. Suppose we had a drug in the future that could allow an anencephalic fetus to develop consciousness. But if we don't give it the drug, it'll never be conscious. Does that human fetus, that human being, biological human being, would they have a right to that treatment?
I don't think they would have any rights yet, because rights, I would say, are only afforded to persons. I don't think fetuses are afforded any rights, so no, it would not have a right to it. No.
So even if we had a newborn
Correct.
who could be conscious if we gave them medicine,